Okay, so today we're in section 8.3 talking about the area of circles. And so the area of a figure is the space inside of a shape. And that space is measured in what kind of units? Frank? So good. Square units. So smart. And so when we label our answers on tonight's homework, anytime we're labeling an area answer, we use units squared. There's an abbreviation for that. So the inches squared, yards squared, meters squared, whatever. So I'm going to skip this, and maybe I'll have to make a new video next year if we don't have a 2-hour delay. It actually goes in order, but I'm going to skip down to the part that actually talks about the circles. So tomorrow I'll actually show you where the formula came from. It's pretty interesting where they actually discovered this formula, but for right now, let's just use the formula. And so the formula for circles is A for area. There we go. Equals pi r squared. Now, what does it mean to square a number? Someone other than Frank should know the answer to this. Natalie? Not times 2. That's just doubling a number. Lucas? Times it by itself is correct. Yeah, so to square a number means you're timesing it by itself. If you take the radius, I'm going to use Natalie here. Sorry, sounds like she got her answer from Frank. Are you blaming Frank for that? Okay, if you take the radius and you times it by 2, according to our formulas, that's going to give you the diameter. And if you do diameter times pi, you're going to get the circumference. So if you end up getting the same answers on this homework as you did on last night's 8.1 homework, then that's what you're doing. You're doubling the radius, which just gives you the diameter. We don't want to double the radius. We want to square the radius. So you could think pi times r is another way of thinking about this. Okay, pi times r. Now, if you have a scientific calculator, not only do you have a pi button on that calculator, but you should have a squared button on that calculator. And that squared button probably looks like this. It probably says x squared. And so if I want to square 10, I would type in 10, hit the x squared button. It'll put a square next to my 10, and then I'll hit enter or equals, and it'll tell me that 10 times 10 is 100, right? Yeah. Now, if you don't have a scientific calculator and you just have a regular one, since squaring a number means timesing it by itself, you would just type in 10 times 10, and that's not very difficult to do either, right? So everyone should have really no issues doing the homework tonight. Let's jump right into it. We've got a green circle here, and they give me this red line that goes all the way through the circle. What do I call the distance, Maddie, that goes all the way through a circle? The diameter. And I don't want diameter today. Diameter is excellent for finding circumference. It's not helpful for area. I want the radius. So Maddie, if I have the diameter of 26, explain how to find the radius. Yeah, the radius is just half that length. So what is 26 divided by 2? 13. I want to use 13. So if they give you the radius, awesome. If they give you the diameter, divide it by 2 first before you use that. And then so my area formula is A equals pi r squared. And I'm just going to plug in 13 right there. And so 13 squared, for those of you with scientific calculators, you can type in 13 and then hit squared. For those of you without it, you'll just do 13 times 13. What is 13 times 13, Thomas? Okay, and then we take 169 and we just times it by 3.14. Pi is always the same. We know it's 3.14. So times that by 3.14, and you should get 530.66. And it didn't tell me what to label around to, so I'm just going to assume 2 decimal places, but I do have to label it, and we're going to say inches squared. I'm going to line this up a little bit better. Let's put you up here, you over here, you right there, put you right here, and I can put my answer without an equal sign right there so I don't run into the next problem. Now, as you're doing your work papers for 8.1 and this 8.3, there's really not a lot that you have to do outside of the calculator. Let your calculator do that. What I need you to write down on your work paper is you have to tell me what number you're plugging in this case, for R. So don't just give me an answer, but tell me that, at least tell me that you're going to do pi times 13 squared. At least tell me what number you're plugging in. Same for last night's homework. When you do pi times diameter, if the diameter is 12, then show me that you're going to do pi times 12. And then just do it in your calculator. I just need to see what's being plugged into the calculator. Okay. You don't need a picture of a circle to find its area, as long as they tell you what the radius or diameter is. In this case, they're telling us the radius. Do I want the radius when I'm finding area? Absolutely. Yeah, pi times r squared. R stands for radius. So when they give me the radius is 6 here, that's the exact number I want to plug in. So all I would have to put on my work paper, and if you want to write the formula down, that's awesome. I'm not going to make you memorize the formula, but if you write it down, it definitely ensures that you're putting the numbers into the right spots. Pi times 6 squared. That's the bare minimum that you would need on your work paper. And then you can just multiply that out. Notice I'm not dividing it by 2 because the radius is what I want. If they give me the diameter, I will have to divide that by 2 to get the radius, but I want to use this 6 here. And so save yourself some time. You guys know what 6 times 6 is, don't you? Yeah, so save yourself some time. Don't type that in. 36 is where you can start, and then times 3.14. 36 times 3.14 is 113.04, and then feet squared. Example C, again, using the same formula, pi r squared. What's the radius of this blue circle, Aiden? 7, okay. So I'm going to use 7 here. Again, the radius goes halfway through the circle. So if you have that distance going halfway through, which we have, then you're going to use 7. And Aiden, you know what 7 times 7 is? Right there. Aiden already knows 7 times 7. So he doesn't have to do 7 times 7 in his calculator. He can start at 49 and just do 49 times 3.14. And that is 153.86. What would my label be? Frank? Centimeters squared. Yep, everything's going to be labeled in square units tonight because we're finding the area. And example D, a circle with a 28-meter diameter. Hannah, do I want the diameter? No, I want the radius. What would the radius be if the diameter is 28? Hannah? 14. Yeah, just take half of it. So if they give, that's as hard as it gets tonight, guys. Oh, they gave you the diameter instead of the radius. Well, just divide that by 2. Now you have the radius, and that's what we're going to plug in. Pi r squared is my formula. So I'm going to plug in pi times 14 squared. Now, I don't expect anyone to have 14 squared memorized, like you have 6 squared or 7 squared. But 14 squared means 14 times 14. And what is 14 times 14? Hunter? 196. Now we're going to take that and we're going to times it by 3.14. And that's going to give us 615.44 meters squared. Now, if you're getting a different answer from me, you may be using your pi button, which means you're going to get a lot more decimal places. And when you round it, it may round to 615.47 or 615.5. It could round differently. Your answer with the pi button is actually more accurate than just using 3.14. So just know that I'm okay with using the pi button as long as you are okay with me using 3.14 and getting an answer that's just slightly smaller than yours. Okay. Sometimes it's unnoticed, you don't even notice the difference. But when the numbers get bigger like this, you're going to notice that it's off by a few decimals, by a few hundredths or maybe a few tenths. That's how you find. So if I stopped right there, you guys could do about 80% of the homework tonight. Because you're not going to have any triangles, parallelograms, or trapezoids on tonight's homework. We'll talk about those on Thursday and Friday. It's a pretty simple formula to use, isn't it? I mean, this isn't rocket science. You have found the area of more difficult shapes last year and even the year before that. Do you guys know how to find the area of a triangle? You've done it before. 1/2 base times, how many numbers do you have to know? 2. You need to know the base and the height, right? So you have to find where the base and the height is. How many numbers do you need for a circle? Just one, the radius. That's all you need to do, because pi is always the same. It's always 3.14. You can start with that. You only need to know the radius. And it's not very difficult to times the radius by itself. All right, and then times it by 3.14. Okay, let's move on. We can do two more examples. This next one says you want to find the distance a monster truck travels when its tires make one 360-degree rotation. 360-degree rotation. What's that make you think of? A circle. Yes. What part of a circle? If I'm talking about a 360-degree rotation. Circumference. Yeah. So not every problem these days are just going to be all about area. You might still see some circumference problems, and you're definitely going to see some on tomorrow's worksheet, which is all about area and circumference. And so if I knew the circumference of that tire, if I knew, if I put a mark on the top of the tire and then took a tape measure and measured all the way around it, that's how you could find the circumference. Or maybe even easier, you could measure from the top of the tire to the bottom of the tire. That's the diameter. And times that by 3.14, it's going to give you the same length. If I know that distance, I'll know how far the truck travels when that tire makes one 360-degree rotation. It could be 12 feet. Right? But it's not the space inside the tire. And so if I'm talking about the space inside, that would be area. And that's, notice how it says, what is the distance? Okay, so it's a length. The next one says, find the area of the semicircular orchestra pit. That's the red part here. Okay, so semicircles. How do you think you find the area of a semicircle? Someone other than Frank or Hunter. Come on. How would you find the area of a semicircle? Or Lucas? Michael knows. Divide by 2. Exactly. Yeah, it's half a circle, right? So what we'll do is I'll put the area formula here, but I'm going to put a half in front of it. And like Michael just said, that just means when we're done, we're just going to hit divide by 2. So we're going to treat it like it's a full-size circle. And my circle is going off the edge. If it were a full-size circle, would the 30 feet here be its radius or diameter? It would be the diameter. And so what would half of 30 be? 15. The radius of the circle, I don't know if you, I can't see that. Never mind. I'm going to write it over here. The radius of the circle is 15. So I'm going to take half of pi times 15 squared. I don't know 15 squared, so I use my calculator for that. 15 times 15, or 15, hit the square button. What is 15 squared? Maddie? 225. It's 225. I'm going to times that by 3.14, and that's going to give me 706.5. That would be the area of a complete circle orchestra pit. We don't have a complete circle. We only have half of that. So Michael, tell us what we're going to do again. Divide by 2. That's how you find the area of a semicircle. Take that, hit divide by 2, and that's going to give you a final answer. I barely have any room to write this. Oh no, there we go. Final answer of 353.25, and that's going to be feet squared. So now that I've shown you how to find the area of a semicircle, I guess that means you can do 100% of your homework problems tonight. I will finish these notes tomorrow. You guys are dismissed. You think not squaring 15 will give you the same answer? Yeah.